eighth wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
It's episode 53 of Basically a Geek Show! And then we'd have explosions there if we had explosions. So.
We've been trying to get Michael Bay to at least, do some audio effects for us. He's not returning our calls.
No, which is disappointing.
But when I'm tired of Michael Bay not returning my calls, I like to insert some nice, refreshing Coca-Cola into my dick hole. Are we doing that right?
I think so, yeah. Come on, Coke, hit us up.
Yeah. We're open, Coke. We're open. Put yourself inside of us.
Oh, come on. I mean,
our bodies are ready.
What does Optibotimus have that we don't have?
An Optimus Prime goalie mask for starters.
Yeah.
That's really badass.
Yeah, James Reimer has one too, and he kind of sucks.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, I don't like Optibotimus. He's a bit of a chode, but I gotta respect the mask, dude.
It is a cool mask. But with all that said, what have we got on tap for episode 53, sir?
So, there's been a lot of buzz and QQ in the video game community over this.
Okay.
There have been, when you look back into the heyday of Japanese game developing, there are three names that spring to mind of most people who kind of are aware of these things. Shigeru Miyamoto, the father of Mario and Zelda and the main captain of Nintendo creatively, at least during the early days. Mm-hmm. Kenji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man, who is, as we've discussed, gone on to work on other things since then. Still waiting on Mighty Number 9, but anyway.
Yes.
And Hideo Kajima, who has, unlike the other two, never really faded from relevance. In fact, he's only gotten more prevalent as the years have gone on.
What about the guy who did Final Fantasy?
I don't know who that was. I think it's been different teams for the most part. I don't know exactly how.
No. I mean the first guy who did the first Final Fantasy game.
Well, I don't know. I don't know his name. And the funny thing is, authors and musicians and everything, they've always gotten, name recognition, shit like that. Video game developers, that's kind of a thing that's only really started being known of recently. If you've noticed, Electronic Arts back before,
Okay, sorry. So the guy's name is, Hironobu Sakaguchi. Is Final Fantasy. And I only bring him up because he basically gambled Square's at the time, future on that game. So sorry.
Oh, no, I mean, no, he is definitely worth mentioning. But it's the whole thing of video game developers being known by name is something kind of recent. Like Electronic Arts, for example, back before they drank the blood of Satan, that was one of their things. When you would purchase their old games, they would have it was almost like an album insert that would list, everyone who worked on the game, and they'd have a photo of all the developers standing, there together. And
you're telling me that there was a point in time when Electronic Arts wasn't a nameless corporate blob that just spewed evil over the video game industry?
Yeah, actually. I know it's hard for anyone, under the age of probably 25 to realize, but yeah, they started out as the good guys. They started out as the counter movement to what they became.
And then they gave in to their anger and hatred, and that led to the dark side.
Yeah. They were the hero long enough to see themselves become the villain, and my God, did they not disappoint in that department. But, so yeah, Hideo Kajima, the father of the Metal Gear series, he's leaving Konami. And, I mean, Metal Gear, most people who are listening to this are probably familiar with, the Metal Gear Solid series. Not me. When I hear Metal Gear, I think of the original Nintendo. Metal Gear on that system. I think Metal Gear was actually, I believe, before the NES even. I don't recall whether it was Commodore or Amiga. The game is fucking old. The series, the franchise is fucking old. Perhaps even older than like Mario or some of those others. It's been around for a while. And, you know, it really kind of came into its own when, you know, Metal Gear Solid kind of did its thing. And I'll be honest, I've never been a fan of, I wasn't even actually a fan of the original Metal Gear on the 8-bit Nintendo. I don't like the whole sneaky, stealthy games. I like fighting like a man.
You don't like sneaking around. You like taking your guy into a room full of enemies and just mowing them down, yelling, Kerplunk!
Exactly. I want to go Michael Bay up in this bitch. And, but, you know, I have to give credit where it's due because it at the time when, Kojima first made, you know, Metal Gear, it was a playstyle that you didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a shoot 'em up. And, you know, that was like the thing back then. We're talking, you know, the early to mid 80s for this. And, you know, other big name games at the time like Contra and Gradius and you know, soon to be Mega Man and things like that, you know, they were all heavy action-oriented games. There wasn't much thought besides spray and pray in most of these games, and he changed that. And so I do have to give credit where it's due in that sense for thinking outside the box and so on and so forth. Just because I don't like the result myself, it doesn't suit my personal style, it doesn't mean I have any less respect for it. Now, in terms of the latter end of things with the Metal Gear Solid series, I don't know. I know this series has a lot of devoted fans, and
I would consider myself among them. I'm a big fan of 3 and 4. I actually got 4 for free, actually. A game bundled in with my PS3 when I picked that up.
Now, did they tell you that it was a game, or did they list it as cutscenes?
That was what I'm about to say. I would consider myself a fan of the Metal Gear series, but I'm not gonna lie. It seems like 4 was them desperately wanting to make a Metal Gear movie, and then they begrudgingly put some video game-like aspects into it.
Right, and see, that's my thing. That's my thing with it now, more so than the play style.
Mm-hmm.
I'm older now. My reflexes aren't quite what they used to be, and so you know, a more stealthy type thing is kind of good for me now because I don't have to be twitching so much.
It's good for my rheumatitis.
It's good for the rheumatism in my gout, but you know, so I still don't like that playstyle as much as I prefer just balls to the wall shoot 'em ups. But, you know, I can get more into it now and enjoy it a little bit. But the whole cutscene thing, where I know the trend and the movement has been towards quote unquote interactive entertainment. Well, god damn it, that's what video games have always been.
Mm-hmm.
Before you had hour-long cutscenes after every death. I mean, yes, a certain amount of cinematic quality in a video game is awesome. It's a good thing, but I think, you know, we're seeing too much of a trend towards this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, now, in your standard, okay, Metal Gear Solid 4, since that's one you're fairly familiar with, how much of that game, percentage-wise, would you honestly say is cutscenes?
Oh, okay.
Do.
It honestly wouldn't surprise me if it clocked in around 65-70%.
Seriously?
It felt like it, yeah.
Wow. It probably is less than that. Like when you were sitting here, when I was waiting for you to answer the question, I was thinking, you know, I would consider anything like 30% or higher to be too much.
It definitely felt more. Again, take that with a grain of salt, because a lot of I'm remembering, it's been years since I played it, and from what I'm remembering, it's mostly the drawn-out tedium of the scenes, as maybe it might be a bit of confirmation bias on that end, but it definitely felt, it felt like 65 to 70%. I'm not sure if that is how it breaks down, but it definitely felt like it.
Right, and Metal Gear Solid, I mean, that's the one that we're talking about right now because it's topical in that sense, but it's definitely not the only series that's guilty of it. I mean, look at what Final Fantasy has become.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Final Fantasy X is, I've said before, my favorite installment in that franchise, and when I first played it, I was just blown away by the cinematics, and I was stoked for them. I looked forward to them.
Mm-hmm.
But there weren't that many. Like, you've seen one when something important happened, or when something important was about to happen. You knew that when you seen one, wow, you just did something that was important, or damn, some shit was about to go down, son.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you look at, well, the most recent installment, I've played 13.
Yes.
And I've talked about that god-awful shit fest quite a bit, but
Hallway!
Yeah, final hallway. But in that sense, though, so much that game is a cutscene. So much of it is a cinematic that it really takes away from the impact of the story, to me at least, when you do that.
The difference is, though, and this is a mark in Metal Gear's favor, is that at least in the Metal Gear universe, it is enough like our own world that you can comprehend the fucking cutscenes. I don't know what drugs the people who make Final Fantasy these days are on, but the visuals of that series have gone so far off the fantastical deep end that half the time in a Final Fantasy 13 cutscene, you can't tell what the shit is happening. Cause like, god, motorcycle, crystals!
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, that's a very valid point. I mean, Final Fantasy, it's a bit out there now. I mean, it's always been a bit out there, but more so now, and I think just because they can do so much more creatively with how they depict things. But, like, the thing is, okay, Final Fantasy 13, you would watch these cutscenes and still not have that much more of an idea about what's going on than you did before.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really not even used, in my opinion at least, effectively as storytelling mechanisms, where at least I believe Metal Gear Solid does that. It does tell a coherent and good story, usually. But, now I don't know why Kojima has left Konami. I believe it was just one of those cases of he just wants to go on and do something else. But the first thing I thought of when I heard it was, several months ago, I think it was one of our first episodes that we did, when we were talking about, the new Metal Gear game and how you were getting what was effectively a demo, one level of this game, and being asked to pay like $30, $40 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost wonder, because I don't think Kojima has any impact on the business end of Konami. I think he's just, basically a creative driving force.
Mm-hmm.
And their primary one at that. Oops, well, that's gone.
Oh shit, what do we do now?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll get to that in a moment. But, I don't, I wasn't one of the people, thinking, Kojima, you fucking asshole. I don't think he really had anything to do with that. But, I kind of wonder maybe if it was one of those things where he didn't approve of that, perhaps. The developers of a game, they're like the writers of the movie. They're the ones that try to make sure, hopefully, that, the viewer, the player, hopefully the player, has a particular type of experience that they want to convey. They're the artists. They're not the bean counters. And maybe he didn't like what the direction Konami was going with some of this.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I applaud him for that. But that being the case, he's their guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost synonymous in many people's minds with Konami, and makes you kind of wonder if they're just not up shit creek now. I mean, I guess that's a bit of an overreaction. I'm sure they will probably get other people,
Hmm.
to work on the series, but whether it feels the same or not, people are still going to say it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. Well, I was gonna make a joke that, maybe he could make a Metal Gear movie now and it would be an easy transition. Since he's practically already made one at this point, but, I definitely, it sucks from Konami's standpoint, but again, I don't blame the guy. If he's made enough money at this point in his career, he just doesn't want to work anymore. I've got no problem with the guy cashing out.
This is a source from videogamer.com that says a Metal Gear Solid voice actress cites that Kojima was fired.
Really?
A Konami representative has denied the claims, telling videogamer.com the suggestion that Kojima has been fired is categorically incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
The original story was that Kojima was fired by upper management at Konami, according to tweets made by Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zero's voice actress Donna Burke. I kind of think that I kind of believe the company line on that one, because what the fuck is a voice actress going to know?
I also don't see why they'd fire him. Metal Gear games are still widely successful. For as much crap as people gave for being all cutscenes, it still sold incredibly well. I honestly don't see why they would have fired him. He was still, bringing the money in, so I gotta believe the company on that one too.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me that a voice actress is going to be privy to that kind of information. Let's see, a Konami representative told IGN that, quote, as we've already announced, we are shifting our production structure to a headquarters-controlled system in order to establish a steadfast operating base capable of responding to the rapid market changes that surround our digital entertainment business.
What did that?
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. Konami Digital Entertainment, including Mr. Kojima, will continue to develop and support Metal Gear products. Please look forward to future announcements. Let's see, but it looks like, that he has, in fact, this statement might have been a little bit dated in that regard, though this is from March 19th. There definitely seems to be some weird shit going on with that. Mm-hmm. So it could be that. It could be a case of, him not approving of what's going on, something like that. And yeah, that statement there, they're shifting the paradigm to increase synergy from the innovators in chicken.
God.
You see? That's totally what they're fucking doing.
I just don't know what Konami has left. I don't know what bullets Konami has in the gun that aren't Metal Gear related. You are more in tune with the video game industry than I am, sir, but I can't think of another huge title that they really have to their name.
Well, the thing is, I'm more in tune to the industry to the extent that I'm a bit more of a gaming historian. Mm-hmm. I'm more into the retro end of things. Konami has a lot of bullets in the gun, but they're old bullets.
Uh-huh.
If they want to dig Contra back up, fucking have at it. I would jizz so hard.
I think if they were going to do Contra, they would have done it already.
Not necessarily. Castlevania is a Konami flagship franchise.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. They're still doing that.
Though Lords of Shadow 2 met with very lackluster responses from most people. I have not played it. Lords of Shadow 1 was a very good God of War clone, voiced with voiceovers by Patrick Stewart, so kudos. Of course, the creator of Castlevania left Konami as well. Now, I don't know his name offhand, but I do recall hearing that he did leave. So Konami, I think, is kind of fucked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had one really solid franchise, and their star player is off the team, so that's going to be kind of interesting.
It definitely will, and Metal Gear Solid 5 is still in production, right, if I'm not mistaken, so it's going to be interesting to see how the story of that progresses, if this is just a case where it's clearly obvious they slapped two like, if you could tell where in the writing process, shit got all mixed up.
I think that Ground Zeroes, as it's called, is far enough along in the development cycle that it's not going to really be impacted. Now, Konami has emphasized that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be the last entry in the series, though. So this is going to be it. So evidently they're not going to have other people going on and finger-fucking Metal Gear Solid.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't see what harm it could do to try. I mean...
Well, I understand that, but on the other hand, it might be a good idea to let some of these older titles go graciously into the night, and so
that we can bring back other old titles that need to be brought back. Yes, you're a genius. Konami, give me Contra. Do it. Do it now.
I just don't get the Contra thing. The obsession of Contra.
You're an idiot. That's why you don't get it. Now, it's probably a generational gap. I mean, that was one of the things that I grew up playing. Though honestly, even my roommates who are younger than you, a couple of them, were like, "Oh, dude, you're playing Contra. That game rocks." So maybe it is just you being inferior as a person.
Probably.
Could very well be. I mean,
probably.
But yeah. So, we'll see. I think I can say one thing with a degree of certainty: Konami is going to be in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, at least due in part because of this, and their neglect with their other series. So there you go. Moving on though, I suppose. Kind of a related topic in a sense, in that it does have to do with a video gaming nature of the antiquated variety.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of. The last cartridge-based video game console was the Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have discussed that system a few times.
Yeah, its contemporaries were the PS1,
mm-hmm.
which was disc-based. And what was Sega putting out for the against the N64? Was that the Saturn?
It was the Saturn at the time. Yes.
Oh, what a disappointing piece of crap that was.
The Saturn was not a bad system, sir.
What is it about you saying that about Sega systems that massively bombed?
Because I know more about this shit than you do, that's why.
Alright.
Yeah. I'm not succumbing to fanboyism. Okay, maybe a little bit. The system itself, honestly, being objective about the Saturn, the system itself was okay. Sega was kind of flailing a bit at the time. Like, they didn't seem to know when they should have been working on a new system, they were working on creating extra add-ons for the Genesis in the hopes that the system would just evolve into Voltron once you put enough attachments on it. I mean, like, back in the day, I had the fucking 32X, I had the Sega CD, the Genesis.
Oh, the CD, oh.
And you put them all together, and, like, it turned into a Gundam. And, you had to have, like, I remember running, like, 2 cables, 2 power plugs into the outlet on the wall right beside my bed, and then having to, like, do the thing that they tell you to never do and plug an AC power cord adapter into an extension cord and then running that one across the other side of my bedroom just to plug in all this fucking shit that Sega said I needed to have to play games. And it was a fucking adventure. Like these AC adapters, these things were fucking bricks too. But anyways, yeah. You had the N64, you had the Sega Saturn and the PS1. And Nintendo at the time, got a lot of guff for sticking to their guns on the whole cartridge thing when CDs were much easier to produce and more cheap to produce and could hold more information. And Nintendo's like, no, fuck you, we do what we want. Some things with the Nintendo never change.
When they did introduce a CD-based system with the GameCube, it was like the discs were half the size, and you couldn't play DVDs on the system. So.
Right. So Nintendo's like, all right, fine, we'll go to discs, but you know what? They're special discs. Oh, god damn it, Nintendo! Why? Why must you always be different? 'Cause we got money, bitch. Okay, fine, fair enough. So even when Nintendo conforms, they don't conform. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the N64 was the last cartridge-based system to enter production. And some to this day still say, rightfully so, that it did suffer because of the fact that Nintendo did not go to a CD-based medium. It was the first Nintendo system to quote-unquote lose a console war. Mm-hmm. And it lost against fucking Sony. Mm-hmm. Also ran the Sega Saturn. Poor Sega. But yeah, so, they got stomped. Or no, was it the N64 or was it the GameCube? I think it might have been the GameCube that was their first failure. I think I'll retract that. I'm pretty sure it was the GameCube that was Nintendo's first failure.
I remember the N64 being pretty popular around, at least my neck of the woods. I mean, everyone had one.
But, so, that's a thing. But there's going to be a new cartridge-based video game system, that has been announced, that is in the works. We'll see if it ever sees the light of day, but I think it's very interesting that this is even being considered. It's called the Retro Video Game System, otherwise known as the Retro VGS. And here, I'm going to send you a link to a picture of this thing, because I want you to see it. And I want you to tell me what the aesthetics of this system remind you of, if you can, if you're familiar enough with the design for it to harken back to anything for you. There's the link. Now go ahead and take a look at that for me. And tell me what pops into your head when you see it.
Looks like a toilet.
And what other system do we know that looked like a toilet?
A Dreamcast?
How dare you compare the Dreamcast to a toilet? So help me God. No, the Atari Jaguar.
Oh, see, that thing is so far off my radar.
Let me get you an image of the Atari Jaguar, because I want you to see it. And those of you listening to this, take a look at the images too.
I'll probably throw them up as the thumbnail for the episode.
Well, I don't think you'll be able to get a side-by-side comparison, but let me see here.
I'll make one in paint. It's not a big deal.
Jaguar. Because, I want you to see this. I think the resemblance is more than a little, uncanny.
Uh-huh.
In fact, now that I'm looking at it, wow. It's actually not a resemblance at all. It's an outright copying. There you go.
Oh, wow, yeah, that is,
It's the same goddamn thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, and what's different about this is new cartridge-based systems in the fact that they are hardware. Mm-hmm. It's not anything really new. I mean, I've got a clone system that plays, NES, SNES, and Genesis games. Mm-hmm. So, new systems that play cartridges aren't anything new. They've been around for years. But this is a new platform. It's not Nintendo. It's not Sega. It's not Atari or anything like that. It's not meant to play those games. It's going to have its own games developed for it. Original games. Mm-hmm. And that's what I find interesting. I've seen, some gameplay footage of one of the games that's supposedly being developed for it. It's called Tiny Night. Anyone who wants to see that can head over to the YouTube channel Gamester81, though I would not recommend subscribing to his channel because most of what he does is, frankly, advertisements. That's just my opinion, though. But yeah, he was talking about this, and, you know, he showed some gameplay footage for a game that he was helping to get developed, and the game itself looks pretty interesting. The graphics look very Super Nintendo-esque, so I'm thinking they're aiming for kind of like a 16-bit look to things. Now, I don't know the actual specs of the system. Now, as you can see in the picture that I sent you, the controller is modern in its design. It's got 2 analog sticks, a D-pad, and your standard array of buttons.
Not sure how that's going to play.
I can see a use for it because you had a lot of games at the time, even back in the 16-bit days, like Smash TV and Total Carnage, that use, like in the arcade, their arcade versions used dual sticks. You used one to move, one to aim.
Yeah, but a lot of these control sticks now, they're the result of a gaming taking place in a 3-dimensional environment. I'd say all 16-bit games, 8-bit games, we're talking about side-scrolling in nature, maybe top-down, and you really only need the direction pad for that. So this just seems unnecessary, the control sticks.
It could be. I mean, who knows? I mean, we'll see. And that controller design may end up changing. Again, who's to say? I don't have, sadly, any more information about the system yet. It's something that's been, only recently announced to have even been in the works. But I'm very interested in this because, personally, I think it's going to be a failure.
Now, why do you say that? Because before you go on, it was only a couple of episodes ago where you were talking about how retro gaming is becoming more mainstream. You'd think this would tap right into that.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Okay.
Remember me saying, though, in that same conversation when we discussed, because you said something along the lines of, well, it would be really awesome if Nintendo would, like, re-release the SNES and the original NES. And I told you why that would not happen. Because, these games, they're just easier and cheaper to distribute digitally.
Yes.
The trend is moving away from physical medium. And so that's why I think this is going to fail, because there will always be a demand for NES and SNES and Sega Genesis games and things like that. There will always be a demand. And here, in a few years, there's going to be a solid demand for PS1 games and PS2 games. As, that generation begins, wanting to collect the icons of their youth. There's always going to be demand for those because they have that built in. This is going to be new old games, new retro games, new games, done in a retro style. And I don't think those are going to be strong enough to be supported by physical hardware. Because you have, you have the digital download medium that is so much more effective. And while retro gaming and retro styled games, which is what this is going to be doing, retro style games, for the most part, and we'll get to that here in a second too, but, when you can download these things off of Steam, most of them, why go out and pay, however much this thing is going to cost? And I expect it will be expensive. When you can simply download the games. And, there is indeed something to be said for the fact of, hey, it's cool. It's like the way they did it in the old days with the cartridge and the whatnot. And yay. And I get it. I mean, I'm nostalgic as the next motherfucker, and probably more so than most. But even I think this is a bit much. Now, the thing is, with these games, like I said earlier, they are going to be new games, like not port overs or things like that. But they're also it's also been mentioned that there's going to be some older games that are going to be brought back onto the system things that I'm guessing, don't have copyright anymore, and remade. And that could be interesting, except for the fact that, and I would say that this could be the system saving grace, but the games that most people would want to see, they're already having something done with them. And the ones that aren't, they're still locked down and held firm within their respective copyright holders. So I don't think, and I don't see, a Capcom and a Sega and a Konami, though Konami could use the money, so they may want to sign on to this. I don't see them signing up to make games for this. I don't see this thing getting third-party support. It's like a system to play homebrew games almost, and it's a very cool idea, and I applaud the people making this for giving it a shot. I mean, because it's ballsy as fuck, but I don't see it going anywhere. I mean, because you can get this style of game on Steam. I mean, just look at fucking Shovel Knight, which almost everyone, even your more modern video game critics have been hailing it as just this breakthrough, brilliant retro-styled game. But it's just downloaded on fucking Steam. It's $15. Why pay? Probably these games are going to cost $60, $70 because of the low production numbers that they're going to be stuck with due to lack of interest or not a broader base to draw from. When you can get a game that's $15 and is just as good, if not better. I just don't see it getting anywhere, sadly.
Well, that's a shame because the one thing that I particularly do enjoy about the retro game trend is that it's providing a lot of just refreshing alternatives to the hyper-realism that the major companies are peddling these days. So it would be nice if something like this got off the ground. But kind of staying on the video game trend, there is a new addition to World of Warcraft, and no, it is not actual content. 6.1 remains that patch where the garrison got a music player.
And selfies.
And selfies, yes. And Twitter. I should hook the Bags Twitter account up to my character and then just tweet the most inane bullshit like, I just got some mystery meat off of a wolf I killed.
And we all know you love mystery meat. But yeah, and we were talking about this the other night. It's like, Warlords of Draenor. Savage! This place is so fucking savage that our characters are taking fucking selfies. That's how hardcore this shit is, dude.
For reference, for anyone wondering, in patch 6.1 in Warlords of Draenor, they introduced this thing that you can get you can send your garrison followers on a quest to get it. And it's this little camera toy, and every time you use it, it turns the camera perspective 180, and your character does a selfie. Like, you take pictures, and you can screen cap a selfie-style picture of your character, and then, with another 6.1 edition, there is an in-game feature where you can link all of that, everything you do, directly to Twitter, so you can tweet about the most inane bullcrap you do in WoW, if you so desire. And it is kind of funny that it's just like, they've turned Draenor, which was supposed to be savage and unforgiving, into like, this social media hangout. It's really weird.
They've turned it into a social media handjob fest. And yeah.
We've got the main antagonists, who we thought were the main antagonists, are so fucking pathetic. The Iron Horde, ooh. The only guy who hasn't died yet, he's going to become a big player for the Legion now, only because no one gave enough of a shit about Kilrog Deadeye to kill him prior to all of this.
The Admiral Durnitz of the Iron Horde.
Sir, Blackhand has been destroyed. You have been named as his replacement. Can I get a Heil Deadeye? Just to say I've had one?
Yeah.
So, that's where we're at in WoW, but what's being added, I don't want to say quote unquote midway through 6.1 because, still don't know when 6.2 will be released, but we're, some ways into 6.1 and there's a new edition. It's called the WoW token. Now, WoW is a subscription-based game. Prior to this, there were two ways that you could pay to play the game. One was to basically sign up for a reoccurring subscription on your credit card so that you'd be billed $15 every month or $30 every 2 months or, however you wanted to structure it. Or the other way was to go to a place like Target or Walmart or Toys R Us and basically just buy a game card. And then that would have a code on it, and then you'd go to the Blizzard site, battle.net, and you'd redeem the code and be like, here's your 2 months of game time. All that being said, the new system that they've added, this WoW token, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, so here's the best way I can explain it. It is a token that you use to buy game time inside the game.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing. You can't use it yourself. Here's how it works. You log on to World of Warcraft. Now, once you're playing the game, there is a menu button that opens up to the store, the Blizzard store within WoW. So you go to that, and then you go to the WoW token option, and they're $20 per token, and each token I think it's a month of game time? Each token's like a month of game time. $20 per token. And so what you do is, you buy a token, and once you verify your account and credit card and all that, it drops the token right into your bag. Again, though, you can't use this. Okay? You personally cannot use it. So what you do with the WoW token is you go to the auction house and you put it up for auction. Only you can't set the price because Blizzard has a set price for the WoW token that takes in-realm inflation into account.
So what's the price of one of these things?
And you can sell it for the price that they set. Last I checked, the going price is around 21,000 gold. So
that's it?
So here's what happens. You spend your $20, you get a token in-game. Go to the auction house. Put it up for sale. It says this is going up for auction for 21,000 gold. If someone buys it, you then get in-game mail from the auction house. They give you the 21,000 gold, and that's that. If you would like to then buy a WoW token to use for game time for yourself, you can then take that money and buy and spend it on another token, but you can't actually use the token you spent real money for. And what it is one step removed from basically just going to Blizzard and saying, I'll give you real money for gold, because you give them your $20, they give you a token that's redeemable for in-game gold, 21,000 in-game gold pieces. So that's basically what it is. It's the roundabout way that Blizzard is saying, hey, do you want more gold? Just give us $20 and we'll give you some.
Well, here's my thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm.
People selling game time in
Mm-hmm.
the game
Mm-hmm.
for gold is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
They've always been like, it's something that Blizzard they've never condoned.
But they've stayed quiet on
Right.
it mostly.
They've called them unsupported transactions, meaning if it fucks up, don't come crawling to us.
Mm-hmm.
Do it at your own risk if you're going to do this. And it's been going on ever since, I started playing the game.
Yeah, every now and then you see it in trade chat where it's like, I've got a game card, who wants to buy it?
Right.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, I don't really see anything terribly wrong with it.
I understand that, but the difference is, as you said, these aren't official. This isn't, this previous instance, it's not supported. It's entirely third party. I bought a game card and I'm willing to sell it for in-game gold. Who wants the code? Right? I mean, that is a decision between two consenting adults.
Lol.
Or maybe just a really, entrepreneurial teenager, in which case we should be encouraging that attitude. But basically what it is, I mean, it's entirely unofficial. With this system, it's basically Blizzard saying, we're going to sell you gold for real money.
Well,
And for me personally, that's sort of the line, right? Where like, I can enjoy a video game. If I like it enough and it's subscription based, I'll even pay for a subscription if I like playing it. But actually spending real money on in-game currency, it's not just a WoW thing. It's in any game that has an in-game currency system. It just strikes me as that's the line that shall not be crossed. And it's kind of a moral, philosophical thing with me.
I mean, I get it. I get 100% where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you're kind of overreacting a bit because, alright, there've always been, not even just the people selling game time, but there've always been gold sellers in WoW. People that, get a lot of their gold by nefarious means, hacking accounts.
Yeah, but Blizzard does go after those people though.
Right, they do, and it costs them money to do it. It costs them time and manpower, coding to keep after them, updating their software to find the bots that these people are using, to update security measures to prevent the hacks that are occurring. It's almost the same argument that I would use for legalized marijuana and prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that it's something that's going on anyway. At least with this, it's being done in a controlled and safe manner. They're not going to stop botting. They're not going to stop gold farming. Mm-hmm. And they've said that they don't care if you want to sell your game time for gold. And in the case of, someone selling...
Well, now they have the system where you can do it.
Well, right. But the thing is, it's like, beforehand, yeah, it was a third party, but it was still Blizzard receiving money and someone ending up with gold in exchange for that money. They were just going through a middleman for it, and the transactions were clunky and sometimes unsafe. People were getting ripped off, so on and so forth. And now, you can do it, and it's safer. Now, the downside of this is more people will be taking advantage of it probably, but I don't think all that much more. What I think is actually another aspect of this that is, to me, a little bit more interesting is the fact that it's almost a step in a way towards free-to-play.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, if you have enough gold, if you have a good enough economic system going, then you can buy one of these tokens, and you don't have to give Blizzard any fucking money. That's what I think is more interesting about this, actually. Because when you first told me about this the other day, you were going on about what you just said. I'm thinking, wow, that's almost free to play. Because think about it, 21,000 gold in Draenor is not hard to get. I mean, it's not something you can do in an afternoon, really, unless you have a very good system in place.
But if you have... you're right. The way that it operates, especially if you have, it depends on what garrison buildings you have, but if you have maxed out the herb garden and the mine, and you have the salvage yard, between those three, plus the quest rewards that you send garrison followers to collect, you can. It's not impossible to maybe hit 3,000-4,000 in a single day, depending on how things go.
And if you're actually actively acquiring money by going out mining, gathering, selling, crafted goods on the even in a modest amount, you could play the game for probably 3 or 4 hours a day and make enough money to buy you game time within a couple of weeks. And that's what I think is a bit more interesting about this. It's in many ways almost like a transition to a pseudo free-to-play environment.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how many people take Blizzard up on that, how many people do it. I don't know.
Is this something that is live on the servers now, or is this a coming feature?
Oh, this is live. You can, if you wanted to, you could log on right now. You could go to the auction house, click the WoW token tab that they've added to it, and if you've got 21,000 gold and change, you can buy a month of game time for free. For basically in-game gold. Yeah.
See, I find that aspect to be much more interesting, because that was, I don't know, and it makes me think about the bigger picture with this, as my mind tends to run with things like this. I mean, we know WoW has a healthy subscriber base. I don't know.
Was it 10 million last time the numbers were out?
Yeah. Now I haven't checked MMO Champion in a few weeks, so
I don't think they would have released new numbers yet. They usually only do that for the quarterly reports and at the start of expansions.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, we'll see what it is come, the quarterly report. I guess they'll release that.
It's in July.
July? Okay.
Yeah, July's usually when those things happen.
So I mean, we'll see come July, but it makes me kind of wonder what their business model is evolving into with this.
I can't see WoW ever going truly free to play.
I don't think so either, but this has me wondering if maybe I need to reconsider that thought.
I mean, even think about this. How low did they drop at their lowest point? 7,000 during Pandaria?
It was like
7 million?
6.8 million, I think.
6.8 million during Pandaria. And that was like the lowest point since launch. Even at 6.8, when people were freaking out, WoW is dying! Yeah! Fucking idiots. But even back then, 6.8 million paying $15 a month, that's not a bad business model.
Oh no, it's definitely not. But it makes me wonder, because okay, we've had not just we're in a new expansion content drought, basically, right? You've got, they released patch 6.1, which had no real content to it.
I don't know. I can now change the sound of the music in my garrison, so that's the thing.
Yay, content! But I mean, it's like we've discussed in the past, and I won't go into too much depth on this. Patch 6.1 did offer a lot of quality of life improvements, right? But it didn't do anything with actual content. There's no new dungeons, there's no new raids except for the one that was already scheduled to be coming out anyways.
Yeah.
There's really nothing new there
and
to
I look
do.
forward to killing Blackhand. It would be an honor to kill him because he's awesome.
Right. So, I mean, what are you doing, Blizzard? I mean, and I'm curious as to how that's going to affect subscriber numbers. I mean, are people going to find this level of not content acceptable right now? Because
I think there's enough going on. There's enough daily variance to keep it going, I think, until 6.2, because one of the changes that they did make for garrisons is that new daily quests are added to the garrison. So each day you log into your garrison, there's a new NPC, random, from what I can tell. They're not assigned to specific days. And they offer daily quests that pay rather handsomely as far as quests go. Harrison Jones, the Indiana Jones knockoff character that they have, he shows up every now and then in your garrison, and he offers daily quests to go uncover this artifact or that artifact from Draenor. And when you complete that quest chain, it gives you around 150 gold. So, again, that's another thing, that gold isn't hard to come by in Draenor. But on the other hand, it also shows that there is enough variance, that while new content wasn't added necessarily, enough has been added that even with the drought, the quote-unquote content drought, you still feel like if you log in every day, you can still do something.
Right. Um, and maybe that's part of their thinking. Maybe they're thinking, well, okay, well, if we, do this kind of shit at the beginning of the expansion instead of the end, maybe people will be more likely to not drop their subscription if we have our content drought at the beginning of the expansion. And I can maybe kind of get where that might be something they might think is worth it to try it once to see what happens. I don't know. It's really weird. Like, I don't know why. Because you even we've discussed this before, where one of the developers said, hey, I'll be glad when patches can actually have content again, or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you dumb fuck, you're the one doing it.
Yep.
So I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I don't know.
I don't know either. My guess is that this WoW token system, it serves two purposes. One, it gives them a means to, in a roundabout way, just trade real money for gold. That's step one. That anyone who has the money and is willing to spend it on in-game gold now has a means to do so.
Right.
The other thing that I think it does is it allows WoW to go to a pseudo free-to-play model without actually going free-to-play, and that way you get the people who are perhaps not all that, who perhaps like the game but are questioning whether or not the subscription is worth it. They've provided them an out. They've basically said we can be both free-to-play and subscription-based. And I think that's their way to sort of fend off going full free-to-play in the future.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting way of doing it. I think EVE Online has something similar as well, where you can, do something through trading your credits or whatever to end up getting game time.
WildStar does something too, I think, where you can do something in-game to get game time.
So I mean, we'll see. It's an interesting idea. It is kind of a Blizzard-esque thing to do. They're not, they like to put their own spin on things, and they're a little bit like Nintendo in that way. Like, even when they take something that someone else is doing, they always put their own spin on it and make it different in some way, be that difference for better or worse. So maybe they're
just copy Pixar.
Yeah, or just copy Pixar, yeah. Again, Blizzard, congratulations on your first new franchise in, 15 years.
Can you stop hyping it up by having Chris Metzen tell me about the inner 6-year-old he touched?
Yeah, someone needs to call someone about that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, I guess. I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm curious to see what impact this is going to have on subscriber numbers, because like you said, we're going to have people who are maybe not able to afford gameplay that month because they're spending too much time playing WoW and not able to work because of it. But now those people are set because they can just pay for their WoW by having gold. So they're good to go.
That one guy who settled for in-game gold in that lawsuit against Blizzard is now fucking made.
Oh, he is set the fuck up, isn't he? And you have people who, like you're saying, maybe they're like, oh, well, maybe this isn't worth spending, $15 actual dollars for, but now they have the option to spend gold for it. And again, 21,000 gold is not an unreasonable sum of money to pay, to get game time. Now, I kind of wonder, like, from the money purchasing end, if paying $20 for 21,000 gold is worth it from that end of things, because when you told me that, I'm like, that's not a lot of gold. Mm-hmm. To pay money. I mean, dude, if I were to buy gold, I'd want like fucking, I would say for $20, I'd want like 50,000. And mm-hmm. I know that's an exorbitantly high sum, and I know that, based on what I've seen from the gold sellers and shit like that, Blizzard's offering you more bang for your buck than they do even. But still, that's just how, like, if I were to actually do something as stupid as buy, gold for real money, mm-hmm. dude, I'm going to want a lot of fucking gold.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see me in game next time and I'm riding the Alliance chopper, I found it in my couch cushions, okay?
Well, I actually thought about that. the Alliance Chopper's 1,000 in-game gold, 100,000 in-game gold, right?
Yeah.
You have $100, cause that's how much it's gonna cost you if you want to just do it via the tokens.
Ooh, we're gonna go ahead and not do that. See, again, yeah, so maybe in that sense, us having this discussion and kind of like working it out that way, maybe they do know what they're doing.
I doubt that,
because
considering that it took them, it took them like, how long? 10 years to realize that WoW was a game you played with your friends?
Well, good point, but I'm just saying from an economic balancing standpoint, it seems like they've thought this out. Because it's like, if you want to go buy something that costs an ungodly sum of money, it's like, fuck it. I'll just buy it, whatever. Think again, dude. It's still going to be a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either a lot of money or a lot of gold, and which would you rather spend? I know I'd rather spend the gold.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just one of those things. I think they've balanced it fairly well.
So yeah, $100 if you want that in-game chopper. $100 will get you that in-game chopper. So how much do you really want it, sir?
Not that much.
I didn't think so. Is that about it for today, sir?
That will do it for episode 53.
Basically a geek show. You can catch us on all of our platforms, Stitcher, Spreaker, at basically a sportshow.com. And then you can send us a tweet at a geek show. That's at, a geek show. And send us hate mail at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com.
And we will be looking forward to Vortkin tweeting about his most recent poop quest.
Oh, definitely. Follow the Twitter if you want to see me tweet about the most inane crap in World of Warcraft. For Jack, this is Mike signing off on Bags 53.
Good night, everybody.